All right, folks, we have a reclassification of what a woke movie is and what it's called, and Pixar is doing that because they got to drop the woke, but they can't say they're dropping the woke, so they're going to drop something else instead. Geeks and Gamers has this one by Alex Gurzo the Great. Pete Docter. He's not a doctor, folks. He's a doctor. Pete Docter from Pixar. Pixar to ditch socio-political messaging from films that appeal to everybody. But get ready, because those who love this sort of stuff, they are not happy with what Pete Docter said and the way he said it, but they had to say it this way, and we'll explain why in just a second. Pete Docter, the chief creative officer of Pixar, says the animation studio will stop putting socio-political messaging in its movies and instead make sure the films appeal to everybody. Speaking to the prestigious Wall Street Journal via comicbookmovie.com and World of Real, because Wall Street Journal is behind a paywall, but these are not. Docter discussed what Pixar's movie-making strategy will be going forward. He told the Journal that his job is to make sure the films appeal to everybody. He further suggested that Pixar is going to just crank crap out. What? Oh my gosh. Is that what we're calling what we said was crap too? Look out, ladies and gentlemen, it's hit the fan. Pixar's admitting what they've been putting out. We told you this, but we were shunned. We were scoffed at. You can't say that it's crap. You can't say that about Pixar movies. You guys just don't like stuff. And now they're saying it. If Pixar is going to just crank crap out, let's shut the doors. Now, he would not say this unless they know they cranked crap out. They wouldn't. That's not on the table unless they're admitting that, yes, we did. He says because he would rather the studio die trying to make something that we genuinely believe in. But again, this is not how bad it got in terms of the way that he put this out there. Are you ready for this? Comicbookmovie.com believes this indicates Docter's desire to return to the concepts and stories that made Pixar such a massive success in the first place, to pull back on diversifying its projects going forward. But look down here in this next article, or this next paragraph. This overlooks another part of the article as related by World of Real. Last year's Elio was reconstructed during development. The original director replaced and plot elements such as making an 11-year-old protagonist Alphabet. You all know what that means, right? Alphabet. The Wall Street Journal article cites sources who clarify that it went beyond just quote coding, unquote. When Elio was presented as a little boy of a certain persuasion already, even though he's just a little boy, who fantasized about having a child with his male crush, all the participants in a test screening said they would not watch the movie in theaters, causing Docter and the rest of Pixar bosses to watch the cut and ask for much of that content to be removed. Now, what this reveals to me is that Pete Docter does not have control of his studio. I also don't believe for a second that test screenings were what caused them to say, uh-oh. I think that's an excuse. And the reason for that is because who is most likely to have been the folks that were in the test screenings? Culture, who would you say were most likely in the test screenings?
Those are almost always with Disney, friends and family.
What's the typical political persuasion of people in California Disney?
Well, specifically, they have a D next to their name.
Yeah. So the chances that this happened in test screenings, exceedingly low. I don't believe it. I'm sorry, I just don't believe it. What I think really happened is I think the edict went out after Strange World, after Lightyear, and I think they found out we're not going to be able to do this. All right, let's get to the offensive part, to the folks out there who wanted Pixar and still want it to be a socio-political device to indoctrinate kids. And that's what they want to do. They want to indoctrinate kids. Really do. Here's the paragraph that gets to it. Docter defended the decision to remove the controversial components of Elio, telling the Journal, we're making a movie, not hundreds of millions of dollars of therapy. This is how they're reclassifying it. They're not making therapy movies. What is a therapy movie? Folks, the language here matters. What is a therapy movie? A therapy movie is a woke movie. They've just renamed it so they can scrap it and not make any more of them. But woke is broke at Pixar. Now, do I think it's gone forever? No. Do I think it's dead? No. Do I think it'll rear its ugly head back up again? You bet. Just like Marxism always does. But what they're doing right now is they're renaming what woke is so that they can drop it and they don't have to admit, yep, that didn't work. And the guys who told us the whole way, don't put this in kids' content, they were right the whole way. They can't say that. So, and where does the answer come from? Well, it didn't come from the Pro Channel, even though the CFO was following Jonas right? It doesn't come from the Pro Channel, doesn't come from Value Renegade, doesn't come from Culture Casino, doesn't come from Ron, doesn't come from MJ, doesn't come from Flash, doesn't come from Midnight's Edge, doesn't come from Geeks and Gamers. No. It came from internal screenings, because we at Disney, we have sensibilities. We understand America's middle-class families across Iowa, Nebraska, and the fruited plains of YouTube. MJ, they're done with it.
Try not to laugh at everything you do.
I appreciate that, MJ.
Oh my God, I'm sorry.
MJ, I laugh at everything that Pixar did for about 5-6 years. What about you? Are you happy that they've dropped the stuff from Kids Content simply for the fact that you don't have to take your kids now and on the way to McDonald's to get the Happy Meal and the Big Arch? Whatever. Everybody loves a Big Arch, even the CEO, even if you can't bite the thing. MJ, you don't have to explain to the kids now what the heck they just saw in the film. And maybe parents are okay with it. But they wanted to talk about that topic with the kids, not have it presented in a theater where they were like, oh, we're going to talk about that now.
Exactly. I actually had a conversation with a cast member because they were trying to tell us, oh, you could go watch Hoppers because you guys all know when you're in the Disney bubble, you can see films that are, out. And the cast member was very nice, but I was like, no, mom and dad are going to watch it first, and then we might let the kids watch it. It's Pixar. We got to check it out first. It's the truth, though. It's not safe to let your kids watch a Pixar film. Hey, look, I love the Lasseter Pixar films. Huge fan. But with those other ones, Lightyear and A Strange World, that was beyond strange. That thing was just weird.
Weird.
Not okay.
You have to think about what that does instantaneously to the box office. If parents immediately think that, well, there's this reputation has grown the last few years, and now parents find ourselves going, well, I need to screen this movie first before I can show it to my kids. However, do I really want to pay for this movie twice? Right. Do I really want to go to the movie theater for myself first, maybe myself and my wife, and then hire a babysitter to be with our children while we go screen the movie? So now that doubles the cost. So now then, okay, well, if it's good enough and it's clean enough and it's acceptable enough, then we'll go back to the movie theater and pay again to see it. That I just... when right now, I think that the last time I signed up for Disney Plus, it was like $1.99 or something per month. It's super cheap if you get it at the right time, and they're always running these different deals. And I can screen it at home and not go to the movie theater and not waste my time, not waste my money. And some people, right now I still have Disney Plus mostly because I have a channel where I have to review things more than for any other reason. So there's people that aren't in my position that are just going, you know what, I'm not even going to subscribe to Disney Plus anymore. And calling it therapy, calling it woke, calling it whatever doesn't change what it is. I just watched your review, Pro, of with you and Fake Wizard of Hoppers.
Ooh, Wizard did not like it.
That's what I picked up on, and I picked up on there's some cultural messaging in there about the way society should be run, similar to messaging from, I want to say it was the last Ant-Man movie where they talked about ants and a certain way their society was run. They didn't say the word Marxism, but I'm pretty sure that that's part of it. And it's not something that I really want to try and indoctrinate my children with. I just really want to go to the movies and maybe see a kid playing with some toys that think that they're going to be rejected as the kid gets older. That's a more simple story.
It was a simpler time back then. Culture, here's what's going on. So we've got two different narratives happening at the same time. One of them says Pixar screwed up. They know they screwed up and they're going to fix it. The other narrative that we're supposed to believe is that Pixar is doing great, they're groovy, they're grand, and Hoppers is doing just as well as it possibly can. Now, hold on one second, Culture. I'm going to let you off the races in just 30 seconds. I know I go long sometimes, but here, long-winded am I. Global box office. Hoppers has earned $46 million on its domestic opening weekend, the biggest debut for an original animated film in 9 years since Coco. Now, ignore for a moment Mario. I know some people out there are like, well, it's not original. It is original. I'm sorry, but there had not been an animated Mario movie ever before. Just because it's based on something people know doesn't mean it's not original. It's original to the theatrical. And by the way, every film you see is basically based on something. So I don't know what this is all about. But anyway, we got to have this narrative. So it's the highest debut for an animated original according to the rules they've set forth. Culture. The problem is it had 4 days, as you noted on your channel, I think before anybody else. It had 4 days instead of 3. When you compare it 4 days to 4 days, it's the second worst box office debut by a Pixar movie adjusted for inflation, because we want to know how many tickets actually got sold. It's the second worst ever, Culture. And that's why they got to get this other narrative out, because they're pretending here, but the other one about we're dropping the woke stuff, that's real.
Yeah, look, I think I was a little most disturbed by how every single one of these promotional statements that are made by all these shill sites were carefully structured and worded in a way that they could lift up this film without pointing out that, well, what we're not saying is not really honest or straightforward. We're obfuscating the truth here. And Coco was an enormous hit. And the reason that they say this decade is because they only want you to count the last 5 years. And the last 5 years, Disney, as far as Pixar goes, has
hold
released...
Culture. Hold just a second, because I do need to interrupt you. And the reason is because you said something really intelligent that I had not even connected that yet. Yeah. Folks, here's how they play the game. When they say decade, they don't mean the last 10 years. They mean the decade in which we exist, which only counts 5 years, but sounds like way more. Keep going, Culture. I just love the semantics that they do.
Well, and again, it's weasel words and opportunities to obfuscate as much as possible. So let's take a look at the recent fair. Inside Out 2, it had a LGBTQIA thing removed from it.
Right. They scrubbed that as hard as they could.
Yeah. Then Elemental was a trash fire. Can't really point to that, although they do in a lot of these promotions. Light Beer was terrible, not well received. Turning Red, they didn't even feel comfortable putting it in theaters.
They yanked it and blamed it on the pandemic, while Spider-Man No Way Home was making $1 billion, $2 billion, however much it did. Yeah.
And then before that, you had Luca, which I don't think made it to theaters, at least not for very long. And then, of course, Soul, which didn't go to theaters at all. It was a Disney minus release. Mm-hmm. So when you think about everything that showed up recently, none of those things were appealing. They're not stuck in your head. They're like the Disney version of Wish, which I don't think anybody even remembers was a film that Disney released for its 100-year celebration. So the more I look at it, the more I'm like, you guys still aren't learning the lesson. Because I'm telling you right now, Hoppers is a therapy movie, no matter, what you want to, look at it as. And despite the fact that I enjoyed the bad guy as Gavin Newsom, I thought that was a lot of fun. I didn't enjoy all the ham-fisted messaging. Like look, the better version of this is what James Cameron's been doing for 1.5 decades with Avatar. And the joke in the film, it was so self-aware trying to say it wasn't Avatar, because it literally is. It's just Avatar with animals. And I like you said, I was well removed from the idea that this was going to be a good film, despite the fact there are people in my audience who went and enjoyed themselves. And if you saw this and you loved it, that's awesome.
It's a glorified Disney Plus show.
It is.
It is Pandora with an environmental message. It's Avatar meets Fern Gully,
and Over the Hedge.
Okay.
Over the Hedge. Yeah,
it's just okay.
Yeah, and so it's like every time I recall this, I'm like, you guys don't get it. It's not just the stuff that families object to there. It's the whole narrative that you've been pushing for 50 years that has to be reset every 10 years because people just flat out point to all the evidence that you lied for the last decade about the second ice age. You lied, about the oceans rising so there would be no beachfront property. People are hip to this now. This has been a lie they've been told forever, and these types of movies don't help.
Let me toss something at you, Culture, and to the rest of the panel. Anybody who wants to have a swing at this. I've got a thesis on what's really going on at Pixar. Okay, now Pixar kicked out John Lasseter during the Me Too movement. And they kicked John Lasseter out, not because he did the hanky-panky with anybody, okay? There was no patty caking. Roger, we're talking about you. Hey, Ron, can you do a quick Roger for me? I just said patty cake. Give me a Roger.
Patty cake, patty cake, patty cake.
Oh, my God.
Give me a...
Please.
Folks, the hidden talents of Ron Bradley. All right, so no patty cake at Pixar, all right? It wasn't happening. What did John Lasseter do? He wore too garish Hawaiian shirts, and he hugged too much. No, literally, he gave sideways hugs too much, and they got him out of there. Why? Because Jennifer Lee and the rest of her group that wanted power found a way to get rid of him, and they said, "We don't accept Danny Tanners around here. Get your hugs and hit the road." And so he did, and he's over at Skydance now. Now, here's the problem. John Lasseter was Michael Jordan of storytelling. All right? There is nobody else who's going to replace him. He's gone. And what Pixar is today, panel, I believe it. You tell me if I'm wrong about this. I'll accept it. What Pixar is today is 1999 Chicago Bulls.
Right? Didn't Jennifer Lee come up with a character that loves warm hugs?
She did. But
she's the hypocrite.
Well, he's a snowman in name only, okay? He's completely unthreatening for reasons we won't get into. But here's the deal, folks. There is no Michael Jordan to save the day. No. And so what Pixar is being asked to do by Disney when they create these original IPs, they're being asked to make something that they're not capable of. The 1999 Bulls can't win the championship culture. They want to. Yeah. They can't.
Okay. It's weird. Nowhere did this hurt Disney more than the overall creative roles that he fulfilled for such a long period of time. He was kind of like the Walt. He could get up in front of the room and tell the entire story with aids from the storyboards and everything else, and break it down and break down the sentiment and the feeling that the audience should have as they're watching this, and what the scene should look like. So everybody whether it's an animator or a producer or director can understand where this story is supposed to be going. And again, the minute he was removed from that role that they want to pretend never existed before, prior to this Dana Walden bologna sausage. Anyway, he was essentially the chief creative officer for the company back then. He was directing Imagineering. He was directing both Disney Animation Studios and Pixar. He was picking and choosing the projects, so they had nothing but winners. And whether that was in the theme parks or in the theaters, you don't get that guy very often. And maybe he liked a little bit more wine than most people, right? But at the same time, he was the only one that gives you things like Coco, and that's the other ugly elephant in the room.
If he's worth $100 billion, which he might have been, put somebody beside him to say, "Hey, don't hug," or "Hey, put the glass down." Like, you give the man a handler if he's worth $100 billion.
Pro, there's a reason that doesn't happen in today's workplace, and this is in general. It's in today's workplace across the board, and I especially saw it at Walt Disney World, but the Disney company in general, and that is that you have people that were raised differently. They talk about Gen X, right? We were raised in a very different way, and we were basically, what was it? Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. That's the way I was raised, right? Yeah. That phrase, right? And so, but now you have a whole bunch of there's an up and coming generation of people that were coddled. And I see it like more and more and more and more as the younger people get into the workforce. They're like, oh, no. They're afraid of literally everything. They don't want to be touched. They don't want to be. That's just, you can glance at a person in a way, and you can be glancing past that person. Okay. And they look at you and they're like, why are you looking at me that way? And it's like, no, I glance past you. When you have this type of a massive number of these people in the workforce, then you have people that are all the time distracted from doing the job they're supposed to do. If you are more focused on how your coworker may or may not feel about you, or what your coworker does or does not do to you, then you are not going to be focused on your job. If you are focused on creating, or whatever your job is, if you are focused on guest service, if you're working in a theme park, whatever your job is, if you're focused on doing the job, your coworker doesn't matter. It would take a lot for them to bother you. And then if they did, back when I first entered the workforce, you'd talk to your coworker about it and you get things right between them before you would ever go up the ladder to your boss. And nowadays you're actually taught, no, you cannot talk to your coworker because that, we don't want to do that. So now you get HR departments involved and everything else, and nothing is actually exchanged correctly. And there's just nobody is truly focused on doing their freaking job. And that is what I get upset about. So of course, when you have that going on, then you have all of that ideology, that fear that, oh my gosh, somebody's not going to accept me because I am whatever weird thing we have. I can do Roger Rabbit. That's a weird thing. People aren't going to be accepted for whatever. Like it's so ridiculous. And I'm fed up by it because it's pervasive across our culture. And I really, really wish it would stop.
Right. It empowers the manipulators to rise to the top. Ron, there's only way to finish this kind of a conversation. Could you, in the voice of Roger Rabbit, say, "Hey, Eddie, Pixar got the dip"?
Hey, Eddie, Pixar got the dip.
They don't know what the fuck they're doing.
Thanks for watching That Park Plays News. For more information, consider checking out www.thatparkplace.com. And don't forget to subscribe, share, like, and send this out on your favorite social media accounts.